What's up? This is Rebel Radio.
What up, what up? This is DJ Newmark.
This is Peanut Butter Wolf.
It's your boy. It's okay.
Keep checking out Rebel Radio.
Rebel Radio.
This is Rebel Radio.
We're in the place right here. Rebel Radio is going down.
Would you say Rebel Radio?
Oh, wait. Let's do it again.
Rebel Radio.
And now, Rebel Radio. I'm your host, Josh Levine. My guest today is Slick, the graffiti legend. It's part of our Artwork Rebels series in partnership with Guerilla One. Shout out to Eddie Donaldson, my man from Guerilla One. We'll be talking to Slick, who's one of the true legends of the LA graffiti scene. He was maybe in the first televised graffiti battle with between him and Hex. You may remember that. My graffiti heads will know what I'm talking about. And he went on to do artwork for Ice Cube, the Pharcyde. He was a co-founder of Fuct Clothing, Third Rail, and right now he's the owner of Big Dick's Hardware Store, maybe the first graffiti lifestyle store here in Los Angeles. He's got some really interesting lessons for us and some great stories of how he got there. But among those, work smarter, not harder. For him, that meant not trying to get up everywhere, but focusing on the high impact locations. And he really talks a lot about his competitive nature and how that's driven him throughout his career. So I hope you enjoy this one. Like I said, some good stories coming up. And now, Slick. So how you guys know each other? We're back with Guerilla One. Thanks to Eddie for making this happen.
We go way, like how far back we go?
I don't know. I mean, my first experience, you know, knowing who Slick was it Levitz? It was Levitz? Where was the big battle?
Probably.
The second battle? It was at Levitz, yeah.
At Levitz. Because I got in a little late. I mean, it sounds weird saying that because it's actually real early, but it was still a little late. And I went with, you know, a bunch of dudes from TCF and KSN. They're like, yo, we're going to go to this battle. You know, and I had only been to Belmont. You know, Belmont was cool, but it wasn't Levitz. You know, Levitz was like this big shit, like, you know.
Right.
And I walked in and seen this dude painting the sickest, illest painting I've ever seen in my life. I was just like.
What year was that?
Was it 90 or 91,
89?
Maybe 89?
It wasn't 91.
Yeah. No, yeah, it wasn't.
I hadn't opened my store yet,
right.
So, and House of Pain hadn't broke. But it was like, you know,
maybe 89.
I had seen like some pieces and some burners and a little character here and, you know, a little B-boy dude there. And fucking then I went and seen these dudes doing, you know, the Freddy Krueger fucking mayhem, just complete mayhem, dude. And that's when I was like, okay, I got to be down with this shit. This shit's going somewhere, you know? For me, looking at it from a business perspective, not just a culture.
Cha-ching.
Yeah, no. I was like, no, seriously, dude. I was like, wow, this is some real shit, you know? Because we were trying to do overalls for $20 and like a case of beer at a liquor store and shit. And I seen this. I was like, okay, this is where it's going. You know, I need to be in this lane.
Yeah.
That was the predecessor for reality TV, too, that particular battle and show.
How do you mean?
Because it was like they had me up against this dude, and it was kind of like semi-reality, but semi-fixed, you know.
It was on TV.
But yeah, it was on television. The second one was totally made up for television.
Is that right?
Because I had already battled him at Belmont.
Right.
And I was done with it.
Yeah.
You know? And like, I didn't want to battle him again. I was like, fool, you know, like, why must I do
that? What?
Yeah, what? Like, and then, but I got approached from the studio saying, hey, can you battle him again? And I was like, nah, I'm cool, you know? And then I found out he was going to battle somebody else to take my place.
Right.
And then my gears started thinking like, why the fuck should this nigga get the fame, somebody unknown, to battle him? And I was like, fuck it. I served him once before. I was like, dude, I'll do it again. You know what I mean? But I took it really lightly because we used to party hard back in those days. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
sure.
so I took it like really lightly, like whereas he was more in like battle mode and you know.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, but he's a real serious dude.
Right.
Yeah. So I've heard. You know. Yeah. So I've heard.
He's a good dude. I love him, but he's serious. You know. He's
yeah.
So wait. So
serious.
take me back to before that. How'd you even get started? Do you even remember the first?
Are we jumping to how I started graphic?
Yeah.
Okay. Huh.
Do you remember like your first piece? First time you got up?
Kinda, sorta. That's kind of debatable because I mean, I was always, from the earliest I can remember, I was always artistic.
Yeah.
And then I actually got into, it's weird because I got in through popping and locking, which is, what, 70s and stuff? I mean, you're talking like I was in maybe
Eighth grade.
I was like third grade.
That's in Hawaii?
In Hawaii.
Yeah.
And there was like these teen clubs, and I remember, no, must have been sixth grade, sneaking into these teen clubs, you know, because I was really young for back then, but my father would work in Waikiki, so I would go into the teen club and see these dancers, and they were popping and locking like the high school kids, and I was just like, holy shit, like, you know, and you know, I was always kind of on the artistic side, and I love mimes and shit like that, so I was like, oh shit, this is like miming to music and shit, you know, like with popping and locking, I just, you know, loved music. So that was my step into even like battle mode and
were you drawing or painting or anything before that?
Nothing.
Not really.
A little bit, but nothing like in our what we consider like, you know, graph or anything like that. And then just being in the dance culture, you meet a lot of people into hip hop, and it wasn't even hip hop back then. It was you know, and then the breaking came in. Yeah. Then when breaking came in, then we had Rocksteady Crew perform in Hawaii, and that was a big for Hawaii because we had a lot of military presence in Hawaii, so we'd get a lot of the East Coast influence early. Like I wasn't really hip to West Coast hip hop, but East Coast military or whatever come to Hawaii, so we have the military clubs and stuff. So that was my taste into hip hop, and then I guess Rocksteady coming down, Doze was flavor b-boy, but he could graph, you know. Right. And then that's around the same time, you know, Style Wars came out and stuff. And, you know, yeah, we scribbled on walls before, like, you know, but, you know, on some, like, stoner shit, you know. Right. But yeah, it wasn't until Star Wars I kind of clicked, like, wow, you know, these guys were, like, killing it on trains and things like that. And then it was just on, like, it's something, like, lit a fire under us. And, you know, I was like, oh, I want to be like that, you know.
Is that right?
And you know, what's crazy is my father is from Brooklyn and in military and ended up in Hawaii. And his whole thing is like, you know, I worked my ass so hard to get out of, you know, here and, you know, and then met your mom in Taiwan and we moved to Hawaii and, like, built, you know, a good life for you. And then
now my kids.
Yeah, and now you trying to get back there and shit. You know, like, he just thought it was really ironic, you know. Yeah. But then I it's crazy. So we definitely had a hip hop like scene in Hawaii, an early scene that was actually really influenced by East Coast. But then Booyah used to come down a lot, and they're West Coast. So they brought that little gangster flav and locking, and they used to come battle a lot of fools in Hawaii. Hard, right? Like hitting hard, you know.
Yeah. And you worked with them,
huh?
You worked with them.
Yeah. So. Yeah. I remember Cobra and them back then telling me, and Godfather and Rid saying, oh, when you come to L.A., look us up. So when I came to L.A., and I was actually supposed to stop doing graph, I came out here to do school, go to art school and shit. They were some of the first peoples I hooked up with, you know? So, you know.
The brothers.
Yeah. That was my fam. You know, when I first got here, I didn't know nobody, you know? So, yeah. But, yeah, so that it came through music, through... That's how I got into the art side of graph. You know?
Remember the first piece that like impacted you was the Doze?
Well, that's the first time I really saw like a live piece. Yeah. You know, I mean, I've seen it in photos or what have you. You know, International Graffiti Times, like photos. Yeah. And little video clips, and then, but that's the first time you know I saw it in person. You know, even though I think it was just like a sheet or something he painted on and stuff. I was like, oh, okay, you know. But just to see him get down like that, and then, you know, that he was a B-boy, so he was a dancer, and, like, I just, you know,
Yeah, he was the shit, definitely. Still is.
Yeah, still is.
My first run-in with him was at Water the Bush.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I had never really seen anything, and I went, and I'm like, who's this nigga painting here? I think he had, like, long hair or something. I don't remember. He just looked different, I remember. And I was like, yo, this nigga's this acid space age fucking graffiti dude, you know what I mean? Like, I still have one of the old flyers. I was like, wow.
Right. I mean, yeah, United Nations.
At that time, it was like, nobody's really doing that. It was all about wild style letters. At least my exposure was like wild style letters. You know, and like I said, the little b-boy character here or there until these dudes took it in another direction. But I saw him, I was like, wow, my mind was blown. Zulu Nation.
Yeah, he was always a big influence on me, you know?
Yeah. It's funny. We've heard different things. You know, we had Risk on the show and Saber and, you know, like the relationship between hip hop and graffiti seems like a little bit different for everybody.
Yeah.
And you know, those guys, you know, I don't think they're really hip hop heads.
Not at all. And that's what. And you know, it was. But for us in Hawaii, it was primarily heads into hip hop.
Yeah.
Except one guy who used to pop his ass off. My homie Crush. He was actually a hardcore like death metal, like you know, like you know, which was really funny, you know. But he loved hip hop too, you know, in the music and rap, because back then it wasn't so watered down. It was actually pretty raw, because it was like kind of similar to punk rock in a sense, early hip hop, you know.
Definitely. And so would you say was like the first break that you got? Like, when did you start getting known?
Well, I started getting known early on in Hawaii.
Yeah.
For I don't know, because I think it was a spot that I got up on. It was like a pretty crazy spot, and the thing was, I wasn't the most up in Hawaii like some other writers. Like there was some writers that caught the bus and they were all city or whatever, but I was more selective with the few pieces that I did hit, and strategic about it, and got more fame from those particular pieces. So, you know, work smarter, not harder kind of thing.
Nice.
But it was at like a super cherry like bus stop around over the Waimalu Canal. And I guess people would hit tags there before, you know, but it was the first time people saw a piece with a character like on like where all the buses that go west pass it, you know?
I could see it.
So yeah, it was like the fame spot, you know?
Yeah.
That was that was a big turnaround for me, you know, about making noise with graph. So Hawaii's a small island, so you can only make so much noise without raising attention with, you know, law enforcement and such, you know.
Of course.
And it's tough because my father, police officer.
Oh, wow.
You know, so he was torn because he wanted to support the arts, but, you know, not his son doing vandalism.
Not illegally.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it was actually a family meeting, and decided that I was going to stop doing it and pursue we knew I was good at art, so I was going to pursue a career in like commercial art, or, you know, back then 80s, like Suriyama, you know, that guy that does all that chrome shit. Like, I was like, dude, I wanted to be the next Suriyama, you know, doing like photorealistic chrome, and like airbrushing was big, you know.
Right. Yeah.
And I used to do that for a living in Hawaii too, through high school. You know, airbrush T-shirts. Yeah. Which actually helped me a lot when I came to LA, because people didn't see that coming. Because up until I came on the scene, I guess a lot of the characters were painted like really two-dimensionally, and like Eddie was saying, like the b-boy character, like, and not that I wasn't into it. I thought those were cool and everything, but I guess having that airbrushing T-shirts in Hawaii, like it kind of like it shone through in my work, like so I started like applying those techniques to my characters out here, you know, and people were like, "Damn," you know, and then starting to add these like little reflective lights under like my characters' noses, and you know, like, and adding lighting effects, which is unheard of. Which, you know, because at some of these yards we had a little bit more time, and we could get in there and do some things which maybe they couldn't do on trains or whatever back in the day, you know. Yeah. So that was the advantage we had, you know. And then I started art school. And then so my foundation art school started to kick in with the airbrush stuff. So damn, that shit, you know, and then, you know, undercover I'd go bombing, you know, with the crew. So my stuff looked very different from a lot of the writers that were out at the time, you know, and that's what opened a lot of people's eyes, and even put me on the radar with that Hex character to battle. Right. Because I you know, till this day, I mean, I really had no intentions of battling him or knew who he was, you know, because we had our little circle of friends. I had my crew, you know, K2S, but then also I would kick it with Risky and Dream and Pooch, I mean Green, and, you know, and Charlie. And even though we were all from different crews, but we ended up going hard, like in that early, like golden era of painting, you know, for LA, you know. Yeah. But
so, you know, just thinking about the battle, I think, you know, obviously that's a very hip hop thing. Right?
Yeah, that's from b-boying though, right? Yeah, so
exactly.
And you know, the battle thing was funny too, because the first one, finally I agreed to. I found out who Hex was, and he said he wanted to paint. And for the most part, if you wanted to paint with me, I was like, yeah, that's cool. I just love to get down, you know. So yeah, let's paint, you know. And he denies this to this day. He says, like, I knew it was a battle, whatever like that, but I didn't know it was really a battle. Like, I still pull that dumb card because I thought we were painting. He's like, oh, yeah, you're going to go here, we're going to go here, and we're going to, you know. But every day you get up, it's a battle.
Yeah.
I mean, if you really think about it, every time I go paint or do even a tag or whatever, because so many people look at your shit, you're always putting yourself out there, and it's always, you're going to be.
Right.
But I didn't know it was a battle.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I just thought, like, okay, we're going to go floss our shit, whatever. And this fucking kid, this little kid Sid, brings me his outline. And we already started painting. I painted this little dude on a throne and my scorpion, and it was my pet scorpion. And he had already painted his castle because he uses like rollers, which I thought was cheating back then anyway, because I was such an aerosol purist, which is stupid. But he already knocked out his whole background and did like this fucking castle with a rat running out of the castle and shit. And I guess the kid brought me his outline and it said TSO, taking Slick out. Because the name of his crew is TGO, you know? And I was like, what the fuck? He's going to take me out? And then it clicked in my head, this fool trying to get crazy with me right now. Right. So I was like, okay. I had already painted the scorpion and me sitting in the throne, like kind of smoking a fatty. So I just put little rat tracks standing outside the mouth. That's all I did. And put the tail of the rat, like hanging out of the scorpion's mouth. And then I left, you know, and then the next day I came, you know, and I get up late because, you know, we party or whatever, like had our thing.
He said, you know.
So whatever, I get there when I get there, and this fool had already painted like a Medusa character, like killing his interpretation of my scorpion. And I was like, oh shit, like, you know, and I was like, that kind of hurt me because that was my pet scorpion at the time, you know, little Bertha, you know. So it was like, oh, this fool, like, okay, he just killed my pet. So so
you gotta go hard.
Yeah, so you know, because I felt like I was just suggesting it, where now he's just like going in and like killing it. So then I did an executioner, chopping off his Medusa's head, you know, with the little goofy snakes, you know, hitting their heads and shit, because he's the goofy one or whatever. So then it got like you know, that, and it just went back and forth from there. And then we didn't even know how to stop it, because we just kept going back and forth doing different things until finally it was a circus. I remember, like, towards the end, like, there was mad people. Like,
how many people showed up?
I don't know, like in the beginning just a few people, and then towards the end, I mean, I wasn't counting, but there was a lot. There was, it was. I mean, maybe I'm exaggerating in my old age now, but I'm thinking, like, I feel like they were selling food and shit, and T-shirts, and, like, you know, like sunscreen.
Those bacon wrap hot dogs are everywhere, man.
But you know what I mean? Like, it felt like it was a circus towards the end, where people were all like, okay, who won? And basically, we're like, fuck it. So we met up, and he's like, we asked him, say, oh, so did you take me out? Because his point, that was his point, was to use, and he's like, oh, he's like, nah, I don't think so. You know, I was like, all right, I won then. It was just kind of, that was it. It was like,
claim it.
Okay, yeah, and I took it. I ran with it. I said, fuck it, I won.
Yeah.
Fuck.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that was
and then it was funny because then after that, the battle was done, but we had a production right there, right?
Yeah.
So me and Risky were doing aerosolics at the time, because he was from WCA and I'm from K2S. So we made this like kind of neutral, not really a crew, but whenever we painted together, we're called aerosolics. So he's like, let me throw down an aerosolics piece right there, you know? And so I was like, and so we can get good flicks for, like, you know, the mag, or the, you know, because we had the little graffiti mags and shit back then. So yeah, well, we hit up, you know, Can Control, and he did an aerosolics piece, you know? And then everybody said I cheated. Like I got Risky to do me a piece.
Right.
You know, like I was like, I didn't even have to do a piece to serve Hex. I mean, my piece was inside of the fucking the backgrounds, and the S was cracking through the wall and stuff. I felt like I didn't even need a burner to burn them, you know?
Yeah.
But, you know, it's just funny. If it was like, yeah, Risky, you know, he needed Risky to come do a piece. I was, dude, the battle was done. You know, it's like, you know, but
so
whatever.
What do you think, like, obviously, you know, you went to art school and you have that traditional art background as well. And, you know, like, no other types of artists battle, right? They show,
Yeah.
But there's not this competitive aspect. And I think, you know, that's like that changes the process for making art, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
do you think-
it must. Well, I don't know any other way. So yeah, I don't know how it is in fine art world
Sure.
or whatever, because I'm
Yeah.
currently transitioning into that now as well.
Is that right?
And you know, I haven't really seen too much of that yet, but
Okay.
yeah, I see a lot of I see some politics in there and stuff, and I'm see the game a little bit,
Yeah.
But yeah,
It's definitely not head up though. It's not a sport.
Right.
yeah, but I see definitely like
It's treacherous.
it's-
It's not a sport.
okay.
He's okay.
Well, the business is treacherous.
Yeah.
for sure.
Business, right?
Yeah.
Well, like all business. But, you know, I think it's interesting just that, yeah, like you said, it is a sport. Like, it's different, you know.
But I like having the dope shit.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, that's the bottom. Ever since I could remember as a kid or whatever, like, I like having the dopest shit, dopest
Okay.
styles, dopest, like,
Yeah.
it just felt good,
Sure.
like, I don't know, to burn, like,
Right.
and serve shit,
But that's
You know?
that's what I find interesting about graffiti. Like, besides the fact that it speaks to me personally, but
Yeah.
it's like, other forms of art. There's a long time passes between when it's created and when people see it and can be influenced by it. Right? Like, the artist is in the studio creating, and then there's a show, and then it gets out, and all of that. Right? This is instant. So, the evolution can happen so much faster because it's going up, it's in public, it's on social now. And so, same day,
Yeah.
everyone can take in whatever's been created and then get influenced by that and move, build on top of it.
What's crazy for me is when we started out, like we painted on our jackets, we painted on our shoes, we painted on everything. We painted, like, if you look at I got early pictures from the early 80s and stuff, mid 80s, like, we were doing fresh shit on sneakers and, on our Filas or whatever, like, and then even as far as like advertising campaigns, doing top to bottoms on buses or trains, I think it all comes from the graph shit. And it's funny because while we were doing it at the time, we were fighting so hard to get that shit legit, and like we want to be recognized as like legit artists and
Right.
and make that real money and stuff like that. And now that we're here, it's like like you can't take. When we were thinking that as a kid, like we didn't really take into the grown man stuff, like all
For
the
sure.
other factors that come into play and all the vultures that come into like try and capitalize on our shit. You know what I mean? And for whatever reason, like watering it down or making it whack. But I'm hoping, that the good shit will prevail. Like even after I'm gone or whatever, like people will recognize what I did or what I've done for the scene or whether it's streetwear or street culture or just
Sure.
graph or but without graph there wouldn't even be this whole street art movement. And I used to get bagged dude, from my own crew and from my peoples for doing too much art.
Is that right?
Because I was more on the artistic side.
Yeah.
And Green used to always tell me, he's like, yo, Slick, he goes, you ain't a graph writer. He's like, you an artist,
Right.
And I used to take that as a diss.
Right.
I was like, fuck that shit. Like, I bomb, and I used to get all defensive and shit, but he was right. Like, I was all more, like, caught up in the art aspect. I love doing dope shit. Like, now I'm older now, I actually learned to appreciate even the throw up. As weird as that sounds, but the beauty of two letters, like I love that shit, or just a few strokes or a tag, and, like, not that I didn't like hand styles or throw ups back then, but now I just feel more connected to it. I think that I see more of the beauty in it,
Of course.
Yeah.
As you step away
Yeah.
from it, it starts
Yeah.
to become a little more nostalgic.
Yeah.
But what always got me off was the little monk.
Oh, my little monk throw up guy?
Yeah, the little throw up monk. I remember, what was that thing that was at downtown at the little art thing that somebody did downtown at the Grand?
The Shark Club or whatever?
Yeah, whatever
Yeah.
that was. That's the first time I seen you like do it live, and I was like, that shit is fresh. Like a one-line monk throw up was and the fill was still
real loose
super
and shit.
clean.
Yeah.
Yeah, super clean
Yeah.
fill.
That's cool.
Like, this is nice.
It's funny if you see how that one evolved too. Like I seen early pictures of that first monk when I drew it, like like maybe 10 years prior or whatever, and it looked really stiff and like like I was actually trying to fill it in all tight and stuff. But that's just doing it so many times, an evolution of it,
Yeah,
doing it
starts
like
to grow.
It totally looks different from the monks I drew like 15 years ago or 20 years ago,
Sure.
But yeah, and that was my throw up, because
Yeah, a
I
little
love
different.
characters and
Yeah, but what was dope about that was everybody was like the R or the RS or the letters, and then Slick was like, "Fuck that! I'm gonna do my little character. It looks like me. Like fuck it," and it came off. It's like
Oh, thanks.
probably a lot of dudes tried to do similar shit.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Fucked for a minute.
Oh shit.
Because
Yeah,
that was
definitely.
also one of the early days for you.
Well, yeah, and you so yeah. I mean, you went from being an artist to a clothing designer, entrepreneur. Now you have multiple clothing lines.
Yeah.
And we
Well-
want to hear about the new stuff. But
How much
tell
time
us
you
about
got?
Well, first of all, before we do that, just so the battle, I'm sure
Okay.
brought you a lot of notoriety. How big did you get
Well,
around that time?
How do you scale how big you are? Or how big did my head get? Or how big? Well, I think losing at that second battle was probably the best thing that ever happened to me.
Okay.
Because I think if I had won that battle, my head would have got even bigger.
Yeah.
Because I was already at that age, I was kind of arrogant. Like we were dope and we knew it.
Right. Sure.
Like, you know what I mean? Like we just,
And that's what youth is about.
Yeah. And we were all about, like, I saw some interviews from back then, and I was like, dude, for real? I said that shit? I sound like a fucking prick,
Yeah.
But, yeah, we were all about it, Oh, what was I saying?
How big did you get?
How big did I get? Well, I mean, a lot of stuff came out of that.
Yeah.
Because I met different directors and stuff after
Right.
that, and a lot of commercial stuff came out of my way. So I don't know if you consider that being big, but
Sure.
I
phone starts ringing. That's,
yeah.
That's big.
So a lot of work came out of it.
Yeah.
But it was just weird, like getting recognized, like I'd be at the mall or something, and some old lady would be like, "Hey, aren't you
Is
the
that
guy
right?
that lost to Hex on TV?" Or like calling. I was like, "What the
That's
fuck
funny.
does she know about my
Right.
culture?" But now I've kind of opened the gate,
Yeah.
to the, But it was, and I look like a poor loser on that shit too. Like I was like, "He'll always be a hoax to me," Like that's some funny shit because they try to interview me right when they,
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, and some like
There's TV,
reality TV
Yeah,
shit.
Yeah, no
right?
doubt.
Exactly.
But no, I don't know.
So and then how'd you get started with clothing?
So clothing for me, well, being from Hawaii, T-shirts have always been, I don't know how it was in Cali, growing, but I know everyone wore T-shirts, and
Yeah.
some of the biggest guys in Hawaii were T-shirt companies. Like the two companies I worked for in Hawaii one was Cosmic Airbrush, airbrushing T-shirts. The other one was Crazy Shirts.
Okay, yeah.
Crazy
We had
Shirts.
Crazy Shirt.
The owner used to airbrush on the streets of Waikiki. He was on the task force or something against graffiti.
Oh, yeah.
So when he caught wind somehow that I was submitting designs and stuff for him, and that I, wrote or used to write,
Right.
or he really took it upon himself to like pretty much gave me keys to his art department in the sense where he told his people like, hey, show this kid what's up.
Yeah.
So I was learning how to use the stat camera,
Wow.
learning how to, how to submit comps, and
Right.
saw what goes on in the art department because I lived kind of in that area in Aiea, and I was in Halava.
Mm-hmm.
So I was fortunate enough that, I owe a lot to him to see how a company works,
That's huge.
And I seen, all his antiques. He had stuff, antiques from the sugarcane stuff and stuff from the 20s and stuff like that. And I was like, I guess that shit kind of stuck in my head because, I wanted some of that, So I saw his side too, and he started as an artist too. So I was like, oh, okay.
Nice.
But so I saw turning commercial, artwork into giving it to the public through T-shirts was definitely an avenue that I could do, But it wasn't until I came out here that actually I started one with actually another gentleman you interviewed was Risky called Third Rail. So I was painting with Kelly, and we there was definitely a void for what we were about at the time and stuff. I mean, there was, you know, your fresh jives, and you had like, you know, con art, you know, which is really like hip hop, you know, kind of graph, you know. And, you know, you met Kelly, and he's so not that, you know what I mean? And so we kind of came, like, oh, we're all about graph too, but we're not like that, you know, like that, you know? So we kind of started our own thing, Third Rail, me, him, and Dante, you know? And then before that ball even got too big and rolling, Dante and I bowed out and kind of went our own ways, and Kelly and his dad kept Third Rail going. And then I met Den, who was just getting out of a bad relationship with Nadis Kapis for this name Fucked. So when I met Den, it was through Risky. Risky was like, oh, let's help my friend paint this wall. There was the Synergy building over here in, you know, that Synergy building?
Oh, shit.
Santa Monica.
Yeah,
that
so
was right next to Digital Entertainment.
Yeah. So Kelly introduced me to Den, and then Den showed me his portfolio, and he had sick ass, like, I forgot what the name of his cartoon was, but he was a dope ass inker. Like, he could ink his ass off. And then he showed me like a few CD covers he did for like Marky Mark and a few things he did with Nadis as Fucked. So I found out from him, basically he was getting fucked by Nadis because him and Nadis had a falling out. Right. And basically, so he was kind of in limbo. He was a little bummed about that situation because they started putting it on the big baggy pants. Because Nadis went to World Industries and started making big baggy pants with the fuck. And Eric was a little bit bummed about that. Right. And then I was just getting off the Third Rail thing. I was like, yeah, I was going to try and do this company, but I didn't, you know. But so me and him were kind of like knew we needed to do something. And we're like, okay, you know, let's start our own graphics company and, you know, start doing graphics. We're going to do like a lot of stuff in the music industry, what have you, like, you know, covers CD and you know, album covers and stuff. I was like, yeah, that's dope. And then I realized that he was getting fucked over from Fucked, and I really liked the name. So I was like, fuck it, let's take it back. You know, let's do Fucked Graphics. So that's how the whole Fucked Graphics started, and we did that one graphic. We actually did two graphics first. We did the that one dude getting jacked on the subway car, but he wasn't actually getting jacked. He was I guess undercover or something. We found out later and stuff, but it was a picture from a subway book, you know. And then the Ford Fucked logo, and a few others. But and
Ford logo was huge.
And then we started making. We did a mural together.
Did you ever hear from Ford on that?
Yeah, we actually did. So we did a mural for Synergy Studios. Rally Studios, excuse me. And the money from that, we kept like $1,000 a piece or something, and then the rest we said let it ride, and we put it into making the Ford stickers, the Fuck stickers, and some T-shirts. And I said, let's see what happens, and then we started shopping it around, you know. And then the first ones we went to was extra large, you know, because like they were the guys back then, you know. Sure. And then we went to New York for something for extra large, and then we met the cats from Union, you know, Eddie from Union and stuff, and that's kind of how it kind of went from there. And then we got into, you know, so, you know, it's just I didn't go in thinking that I was gonna do T-shirts and stuff, but it's just I knew T-shirts from like designing shirts, you know, from the get. I knew, you know, and then you know what I was doing with the graph. It just kind of everything just made sense to, you know, and then no one was like checking for like graffiti art on canvas or nothing like that, you know. So to me, that was just the point of less resistance. Like I could make actually money doing like this, you know, T-shirts. Doing cool shit and shit that I actually wanted to rock, you know, that wasn't out there, like that wasn't that rave stuff or whatever. So there was definitely a void when I felt when we came in, you know.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the fact that Eric was so like punk rock, and then I was so B-boy because I come from the B-boy roots, fresh off the boat from Hawaii, you know, like, so I think our styles kind of like, it's yin and yang. It went perfect. Yeah. Because we were so opposite, you know.
Yeah, I remember that shit was huge.
Yeah. And then, I mean, we went from nothing to 0 to 100 real quick, you know. In a few years, we built that shit up, opening up shop and, you know, worldwide distribution, you know.
Right. Yeah.
You know, mad cash, mad drugs. Yeah. And that was the downfall of the formula was the drugs,
Sure.
you know? Yeah.
Yeah, it's usually not good for business.
Yeah. So, and the fact that we were both on the opposite sides of the spectrum on the drug, because I was into the go fast shit, and he was like, you know, going to
Slow down.
So, you know, we definitely had problems, you know,
hard to meet in the middle with that.
And then, you know, then with the money, drugs, mistrust, I mean, a lot of shit happened, you know, like I wish I could turn it back and shit. I did a lot of shitty stuff, like, you know, and you know, and I'm saying I can't speak for him, but maybe he feels the same. I don't know, you know, but you know, I talk to him now. We're not besties, but we're cool.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm okay with that. You know what I mean?
Time
like,
has
you
a
know,
way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know.
I'll tell you this: when I brought Fucked into the store at Outspot 23, that shit went off the shelf like this,
I bet.
dude. I went I was like a garage I don't even remember where it was, but I pulled up to this like garage in an alley, and Blake was there. Yeah, that's you.
Okay.
And he's like, yeah, man, whatever you want, pick some shit. We got this, and I like didn't even have enough money to get enough. You know, I think I brought like a G. You know. And the kids were lined up buying that shit when I got it at the store. I couldn't even get it back. Like I couldn't even reorder because like by the time I tried to get it back, you guys were like, shit was kind of falling apart. But yeah, the one I liked was the bong.
Yeah.
The bong was dope. That was like pre.
It was like a character.
Yeah, it's pre-cool cannabis days.
And so you know what's funny is
yeah.
I like maybe a couple years ago. This is when I wasn't talking to Bernini as well, but I was like, hey, I want to bring that back for 420. You know, like do a 420 special for my brand. This is it or whatever. So I was like, I drew it originally, so like fuck it, I'm gonna draw it. So I redrew it, and I was like, hey, let's do it as a collab. And then you know I put the original Fucked logo on the bottom, just how it was, you know, and I kind of crossed it out and put DZT over it, like in spray. Which I thought was the essence of graph and in what we do and with my brand, you know?
Yeah.
And Bernetti just didn't get it. Like, he goes, well, it looks like you're kind of just dissing me, you know? And I was like, no, it's not, you know, like, it's not really the case, you know? It's more like a homage to it, and it's like, I'm the original creator, so he didn't get it, you know? So he didn't want to do it.
Didn't come out?
So he didn't want to do it or didn't want anything to do with it, or maybe he just changed his image and he's onto some other shit and didn't want to fuck with the bong shit or something, you know? But I thought it was that and the Pepe Le Pew were like crucial designs for us back then, you know?
Yeah.
And I wanted to do it. But yeah, he was in, and then I ended up releasing it anyway. But I took off Fucked and I made it Fuck in the same font, you know. So it's just so he don't trip, you know. And you know,
people still know.
Yeah, people still know because it was the same font, you know. Yeah.
So you've been through that experience, and I know you had some others. Tell me what you know about partnerships.
Partnerships, huh?
I told you he was going to ask the hard questions.
Well,
partnerships are tough. I mean, it is tough. I mean, the problem is they say don't do business with people you know, with your friends or whatever. It's tough for me because I have to kind of like you to do business.
Yeah.
You know, so I don't know, that line is a little tricky for me.
Yeah. I'm kind of the opposite. I'm more like, don't do business with strangers.
Right. So, and I'm kind of
Which
there.
is not the cliche that everybody says.
Yeah, people don't do it with friends, right?
Yeah.
But the thing is, like, I feel if you're not somewhat of a friend, of course, everybody's interpretation of friend is different, like, you know. Yeah. But I definitely think they have to be some sort of, like, maybe people call it associate or whatever, but I call them friends, you know what I mean? Like, you know.
Well, the key is having good choices when you pick your friends, right? Because if you pick good friends, anything that you go through in that relationship should fare out decently.
Right.
But unfortunately, sometimes we pick, you know.
Well, we pick friends based on, you know, geography more than and age more than anything else, right? Like, I'm just saying, like, you pick friends by default. They're either in your neighborhood or you went to school with them or you had some, like, not necessarily really shared interests and values. You just happen to be in the same room at the same time.
Well, not with Graph. Well, I think Graph kind of brought me.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And you know, and that brought me together with people from all over the world. Yeah. Like, you know, like different ages, different, like, you know. Yeah. I kick it with hella youngsters still, you know. I mean, not a lot, but yeah. I mean, and I don't have a problem with it, you know. And I forget how old I am, you know, till people are calling me like legend and shit, like, you know, or calling me, you know, sir or whatever, like, and these are other writers and shit. I was like, dude, he's calling me sir and shit. Like, it kind of like trips me out a little bit, you know, like I just forgot that I grew up, you know?
For sure. For sure.
But, partnerships.
So what do you think makes a good partner for you?
Well, the thing is, I married mine.
Yeah.
And
that's big.
And that's really big, right? But and it's tough, you know. I mean, like as good as it is, like I feel like I can trust the shit out of her. You know what I mean? Like we're tight, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, the problem is when you want to leave the work at home, or you know, I mean, leave the work at the office, and then you want to go home and just kick it or watch a movie, whatever. Like it's tough, or like even the car ride all the way home because we're carpooling together because we go to work. So. Yeah. I'm like a captive audience. Like I mean, I can't jump out the car and slam on the brake. I gotta sit there and like, like a recap of all the fucked up shit that happened that day. All you know, who did what,
Sometimes
who did.
It's good though.
I mean, and it's great. I appreciate that. You know, she wants to talk it out, and you know, she's fucking dope. You know, but sometimes you're just like, you know, like. Want to jump out the carpool lane, but you know, so. But yeah, so it's hard for me to comment on it because I married my partner, so and we make it work, you know, both at home and you know, we somehow manage to balance it all, which you know.
What about you, Ed? I know you've had a lot of partners along the way.
Well, you know, I've been blessed to work with some really great people. I think, you know, I'm definitely not the easiest person in the world to get along with.
Who
because
would say that?
Well, a lot of people, but I just expect what I give.
Okay.
You know, out of relationships on all levels.
Yeah.
And I think professionally, anyone that's ever worked with me will never doubt my work ethic or my ability to see the end zone. Yeah. So, you know, as tough as it's been, people always come back and go, thank you. You know, because you pushed me to a place where I might not have been able to push myself.
Yeah.
But I don't think I would have done a lot of the things I did if I didn't have some strong partners like Casey from Seventh Letter with Guerilla One. Like I definitely could not have done that by myself. You know, I had a vision. He had the soldiers and the street. Even now with this weed thing that I'm doing, it's like I've put together 8 people who have 8 different positions in my partnership, and you know, it's completely turned my business around.
Yeah.
I don't think you know, as strong and as smart and as resourceful as I am, I don't think I could do a lot of the things I do alone. So I'm damn near dependent upon partnerships.
Yeah.
You know, like even when we worked together, it was like I had that giant account. There's no way I could have brought that home without you and Raymond giving me, you know, another set of eyes that I had no, you know, I couldn't see. You know, like I constantly bounce things off of you. You know, and I as mad as I was when you'd shoot my shit down, I'd be grateful by the time I got back to my seat. You know, like, all right, cool, now I can forget it. You know, if I had that partner in my office now, I'd probably save me a lot of time. Because I'm whimsical and dreamy. So, you know, I'm grateful for all the partnerships I've had, and I look forward to a whole bunch more. You know.
I don't know if I would describe you as whimsical. I like that.
Well, when it comes to, I have lofty goals.
Okay, yeah, I get that. Yeah, for sure.
I have lofty goals.
No,
I think I can do anything. I think anything's possible.
Yeah.
And sometimes don't look at what it's going to take to get there and how much it's resources and cash and the margin shrinks, and you know. So I need that reality check every once in a while.
So I got wifey, you know.
Exactly.
And she says a lot of things I don't like to hear a lot of times because I want to do this or I want to do that. I'm like,
of course.
You know, we're doing Big Dick's Hardware this year. You know, like it's like that's the new plan. You know, like, and you know, she's a trooper and she goes with it and stuff. But then, you know, like she checks me with the money thing and she's like, you really thinking you're gonna buy a international metro just so you can drive around and like, you know, deliver like the goodness to everybody? And I was like, you know, like I think, you know, I was like, I'm always like, I always think of like the fun shit, you know, you know, and before I think of really the cost involved or how long it's gonna take or who I'm inconveniencing to make it happen,
Right.
or like, you know, like, but I think of shit and I try and make it happen and manifest it any
But
way
you
possible.
need both,
you know?
right?
You do
Can't
need
just
both.
be one or the other.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because,
But on
sorry.
that Big Dick's Hardware, it's like it's a genius idea. And speaking of partners, like, I mean, I think I called you 2 months ago, and I'm like, yo, how can we franchise this shit?
Mm-hmm.
You know, how do we find a couple $1 million and pop these things up in major markets where there's graph heads that will feed off of it? Because when we came up, we had to go to 9 stores to get shit, you know, and make shit and fucking cut shit up. And, you know, there wasn't a marker that, you know, dripped. It just was a different game. You had pilots and ultra-wides, and then ultra-wides went away. And, you know, now it's like the store's got every single thing you need to become a graph artist on all levels, whether it's your gear, whether it's your gear to work, paint with. It's like it's all there.
Yeah.
So if you put one of those in New York, San Francisco, Chicago,
I think it's, I already see it.
in all the hoods, all these kids that haven't really grown up having to find the things that they need probably could appreciate that. And 10 years, 15 years from now, it'd be like a Aaron Brothers, or not Aaron Brothers, but like a Blick, you know, for normal artists store, but with also some clothing and
because I
books
feel
and-
weird buying graph supplies from an art store, to tell you the truth.
Is that right?
Like I walked into this art store and they had the spread. They had like every can, every brand, every, you know, everything
Marker
you need.
selection is off the chain.
And but I still felt uncomfortable because I was like, who the fuck is this guy? Like, and you know, like trying to school me on certain tips or what have you. Like, and I'm just like,
Some little 21-year-old
I was
dork
like,
that's never
you know,
written on anything outdoors ever,
Yeah, sure.
explaining to me what a Molotov marker does.
And
I'm like,
it's weird. That's why I felt with my shops, you know, it's good because they're all, you know, it's writer owned, writer, you know, and I make sure I surround myself with, besides my wife, everyone I work with usually like wrote at some point or is a writer, or, you know, that's one of the first questions I ask when I even like interview people or whatever. Do you write? You know, like, and to me that's important, you know, like, as weird as that sounds, but, you know, but but I want people when they walk into my shop to feel comfortable, like, you know, buying something from, you know, somebody knows what's up, you know?
I mean, speaking on the whole writing thing, right, and it being important, it's like, you know, you talked about advertising agencies jockeying our styles in order to gain fame for their clients, and like full buses and top to bottom dedicated corners for wheat wild postings. It's like, you know, corporate America's definitely bitten the shit out of graffiti and permanence, and it's just
you see it in Sprite commercials. You know.
I don't even mean just graffiti in the campaigns. I mean the way that they get down in the places that they choose.
The technique,
like bus stop benches are a perfect example. They were green at one point.
Right.
Let's all remember that. They were green.
Yeah.
And then all of a
The
sudden,
homie
it's like
Dave
we go and
bought them all up for No Limit Records.
Yeah, we go and start hitting them, and they're like, wait a minute. So this kid's writing his name here. He's hitting 20 of these in one night. And then he's going to school and getting some girls out of it, and like, you know, some free weed and shit.
Yeah.
We should do that for our clients. Yeah. And then it's like we go hit trains and buses and do top to bottoms. They're like, well, maybe we should take over the bus. So they definitely, you know. And if you went into a room with a 60-year-old exec and you tried to explain the parallel there, he'd tell you were tripping.
Of course.
You know, no way. It's not the case. I mean, me and Casey at one point, we were trying to figure out a way to. We wanted to do a book that talked about corporate. The corporate purging of graffiti styles, and like make the parallels in all of them, you know, like even the tops of buildings with the names on top of them. It's like, you know, I'm not saying that we started that, but there's definitely, it's been a battle, you know, for space, you know, and now we're at a time where we got some good space out there. It's a shame that there's not good artists covering a lot of that space. But well,
it's an expensive hobby though too. Like as an artist, or like, I mean, you gotta like, just, I know how much paint costs, and I have a paint shop, but but I mean, just the kid trying to get up and stuff, it costs. You know, you know.
Hell yeah, it does. I mean, there's definitely a cost involved. I mean, but it's gone to another level too, though. You know, back in the day, you get 10, 12 cans, and you could get some real sick shit up, and you're done. But now the level of the game is different. 10, 12 cans isn't gonna get you anything.
Just because the pieces are more
it's
compressed.
more elaborate. Yeah. You know, you got bigger wall space now. You're going 2 stories and a half a block. You know, it's you'd be lucky to get a fraction of that back in the 90s. You know?
Right.
And then the whole wheat pasting and stickering blowing up. I mean, that kind of added a whole nother dimension. You know?
So where do you see graph going now? Obviously, you know, you're talking about how it's, you know, it's infiltrated the mainstream. You know, the medium's changed. What's the future look like?
Well, Well, I think everything's in cycles. Goes in cycles. So I mean, I see it in everything in our culture and everything. Like everything revolves. What was cool last week is not going to be cool next week, and you know, like, and what was cool 10 years ago is coming as it was whack 10 years ago is now dope. And it's so everything's in cycles. So I mean, I saw a trend for a minute now going, as far as graph is concerned, is pulling towards that more, I don't want to say like retro or like kind of like, it's almost like retro graffiti, or they call it hipster graffiti, where, you know, with the bubbles and it
simple styles.
Simple styles and, you know, things like that. And it's just because wild style has just evolved like so gnarly, right? Like it's like the parallel even with b-boying. Like everybody got all the power moves down. Like, I mean, how many head spins can you really do? Like, okay, I did like 8,000. Okay, well, I did 9,000, but you know what I mean? Like, it's like
take it back to the roots.
So so it goes back to style and what you can do, like, you know, with the footwork and the footwork. And I think it's kind of like that because everybody got the power moves now. Everybody got the fancy paint and can do the fancy shit.
Spot and, you know, you drive down the freeway and there's all kinds of little center pole tags and throw ups. I mean, I can tell you from my perspective, I hope that it comes back to the roots of, like, you know, not necessarily on the vandalism side of things, because there's just so many toys out there just making shit look messy. But I would love, you know, like we talked with Saber, it's like, you know, everyone's chasing retina. You know, everybody wants to be a fine artist, and no offense, because I know that's where Slick wants to go too, because it's the evolution, and I support evolution of a single individual artist and scene and movement. But I'd love to see shit go back to the battle days where, you know, let's take 6 cans or 10 cans in 2 colors and go for it. And let's see what you can really come up with. Fuck your skinny tips and your hot purples and yellows and oranges and greens and, you know, the simple shit, you know? Because I think that it's cyclical, like you said, you know, and that's why I'm trying to get Saber. I'm like, dude, let's just do a real graffiti show. Let's bring in some old, like a bus, like how Rick Kelly did the bus, you know, like that RTD bus that he painted was like, to me, that's what the shit is about.
But for the record, I'm not chasing right now.
I know. I'm not saying you are.
You know what I mean? I'm going to do my art regardless. You know what I mean?
I didn't mean that, so don't take it that way. And I know you didn't.
Well, I do want to hear, like, how do you evolve your style, like, purposely, or does it just evolve around you? Like, so you know, you mentioned you're trying to get more into...
Evolution is just going to happen regardless. But I think almost, I see artists, when they click into a style that hits or whatever, almost an anti-evolution almost, because they got to kind of keep producing that to get their money and, you know. Yeah. So that's not really evolution. And that's kind of, I think, my problem is that I feel like I'm forever evolving. Yeah. You know, I mean, I could do a tag that I did last week and I look at it and I'm just like, oh, like, you know, like, or, you know, it's funny how, like, I feel like, and if I didn't feel that way, then I know I'm not growing as an artist or evolving. Right. But I got to find that, like, know where to stop it. Stop the evolution, like, okay, like, this is what I'm going to market or whatever, you know, because then, you know, so people can know what to recognize me from, you know.
James, who do we hear about that from Roger? That, remember, he was showing a bunch of new stuff. We had Roger Gassman on, and he was in the middle of a show, and he was saying how, might have been Pose. Right. Saying how, like, he had just changed kind of his style, and, you know, all these collectors were coming out, and
looking
they're like,
the older shit.
This is not what I want.
Yeah.
And he's like, you know, it's going to take him a while.
But see, I can appreciate that, though. Yeah. Okay? And when I say chasing retina, it's not just simply about retina, but it's like a noticeable style that everybody wants to purchase because that's what it looks like. Of course. You know? as an artist, and I'm not saying anyone's not growing or growing. It's not what this is about. This is about the theory, right?
Yeah.
I like where he's going with it because people are constantly chasing the shit, whether you're making the most money out of what you're doing or not. I deal with it. People hit me and they want this, and Slick's like, well, I'm doing these now. Right. You know, and then, but guess what? 6 months later, they want those, and those aren't around anymore.
Right, exactly.
And I think that is more appealing than a factory that's, you know, binding themselves to a certain look or feel. You know, it's like with Revoke, he switched it and changed it. Now it's completely different. Right. And, you know, I'd love to see him dip back into his old styles because he was one of the illest graffiti artists, you know, of his time. You know, as far as style goes, you know, it's like Zess. He's like, you know, he's moving and changing now. And the newest piece I saw that he did for this last show is out of control. It looks nothing like anything he's ever done. And I think that will bring some originality back to the sport because now everyone's trying to coin that look and get hip for that look. Right. Sure. Back in the day, you weren't looking for that look. You were, like you said, every time you got up harder and different and more fierce. Yeah. Because it was a constant battle to be noticed. It wasn't about doing the same shit. And then GK and Chaka came with the same tag and got super hot on these one tags. But I would like to see the scene get swirly where it's like fucking going at it and something different all the time. It's, you know, but these kids they're not built like we were. You know, they're trying to cut that one thing that works and bleeding the hell out of it. You know, but I will tell you this, the future of graph and it's being cyclical, I had a meeting yesterday with Julian's auction. And they're on the street art graffiti tip. What we're talking about doing is a Guerilla One retrospective auction where I would go and pull from everyone that was part of where we were and what we did, the OGs, not the new dudes. Yeah. You know, and some of my homies would fall in that new dude category who aren't new dudes. But I'm talking about like Slick, Risk, Whisk, Tempt, Dream, like all the old dudes that were there when the KSN dudes, you know, like a real look at what LA graffiti looked like when, you know, the streets were hot, you know. And they're down with it, you know. It won't command the kind of money that the Brainwashes and the Banksies and the, you know, those dudes will do, but it'd be good to take a look backwards and like Kelly said, you know where it comes from. Right. You know, pay homage to who got you even in the game, you know, because like he said, if it wasn't for what they did, like these kids wouldn't even be doing anything.
You know, it's funny, that the whole, like, addressing that evolution thing is funny because, you know, Dante, who is the original partner with me and Risk for Third Rail, well, now he's a director, right? I guess directs spots and Super Bowl commercials and such. So he hired me to do a Super Bowl spot, right? And he's like, yo, Slick, okay, here's the concept. Like, you know, they're showing the past and then now. And then the past and now with music, with different things. Like they showed somebody surfing like old school in the 60s and then showed some guy ripping now. And then showed somebody like singing back in like Woodstock or something and then like now or whatever. And then they said they want to show some dude doing graph like in the 70s or something. And then I was supposed to be the now, you know? So I painted a burner, like my now style. But he was like looking at it like, what the fuck? Like he remembered me as Slick, the 90s Slick, which was doing all the shady, like, you know, reflected light, like, you know, that stuff, like those like super, you know, like airbrush looking productions. And he was kind of shocked at my whole production, which I thought it was a sick production, but it was all like kind of 2D-ish and clean. And that's just where I'm at right now. And I guess he just didn't clarify that he wanted 90s Slick, not, you know, now
he
Slick.
Because then and now. So you got now.
Yeah, so I gave him now, but it's just funny because I was just that's like, if I saw the 90s shit, if I did like an airbrushed mural or whatever, like, I would have thought that's some throwback shit, you know? I'd be like, what? That's and that's kind of, and they were more, Roger and them were a little bit more specific in the Mocha when they had an afterthought and said, hey, let's throw all the OGs on the OG Belmont wall and shit. And they asked, like, they said, which I should be happy about because at least I got mentioned for the show, you know, but that's a whole nother story, you know, but yeah, so they threw us on a wall and they asked for 90s Slick. So I kind of gave them a little taste of like what I used to do, you know, and I did like a little Grim Reaper character, but rendered like how I used to and stuff. So everyone was kind of happy and stuff, but yeah, you got to be real specific with me. Or
is it easy to kind of go back like that and you know, in terms of your, your process or your style?
For some things.
Yeah.
For those kind of styles are pretty easy to go back to, and it's more like a technique or rendering. But if you're gonna ask me to maybe hit an old hand style, that might be a little tough because I'm so conditioned to writing like my own name or like my new hand style. That's my hand style now. It's like my writing.
Yeah.
So for me to write like how I used to write is a little tougher, but
I'm sure.
But yeah, as far as piecing or like doing a character or whatever, I can do like throwback shit for days, if need be.
Yeah.
If the price is right,
That's right. Come on down. You're the next contestant.
So I know you got Big Dick's Hardware, and then This Is It is the line.
Yeah. So we had a good run with the This Is It,
Yeah.
Not to saying it's the end, like if something happens and, we want to go hard with it again, it's there. But my focus these days is more actually on besides my fine art career, which that's number one right now, supposed to be, but and my shop, so, and shops, because we're talking about like Eddie said, like expanding. I'm not sure how we're gonna do it, but whether I'm gonna do it on my own or if I'm bringing in a partner. But we have a few offers and people want to do it in different countries and stuff already. Nice. And we haven't even been open for a year, and they just like what we're about, and the aesthetic of the shop, and just the whole theme, and it could actually help whatever neighborhood it does go into, like by carrying some of the local brands or whatever,
talk about that. So the store right now is in Gardena.
Yeah. So we're actually they call it
not a retail hub.
It's not the retail. We're actually like between where Gardena and Compton kind of meet right there off the 110. Unincorporated LA they call it actually. But it's actually wouldn't be the most ideal spot. I'd put for a retail store, but it's my studio. And my it's So it was my warehouse at one point, and then we're like, oh, let's since we're here all the time, let's put a retail store up there, and it And it was actually out of necessity because it was difficult for me to find supplies while I was working in my studio. Like I'd have to go on a mission just to get a can of paint, or to get this color or what have you, Yeah. So I was like, okay, let's do a shop in the front, kind of thing. And basically, it's my own paint shop,
that's great.
His own paint shop.
I love it.
But the problem is I get high off my own supply,
And so, what about social media? How does that change the game for you?
Well, I think social media. Well, it killed the whole streetwear thing. I think as much as it blew it up.
Yeah. How do you mean?
It made everything too fast and accessible, and just. It made trends even coming. Trends already were going in and out, but I think with social media, it just
so fast.
It's and it helped that whole thing with brands popping up out of nowhere and taking a part of the market share and stuff. So I think it kind of fucked it up in a way, as much as it helped. And if you weren't in at the right time, you're kind of fucked in a way because then you got to kind of try to jump in, but you're already too late for this, so you got to wait for the next. It became more about that than actually streetwear. You know what I mean? Like, and I thought that was kind of fucked up. Yeah. Where it's so to a point now where either that or I'm just so out of the loop of streetwear that it's so not streetwear that I think it's like it's gone so left field to me.
Well, it's definitely not streetwear anymore.
From where we started, you know what I mean? And the people doing it had nothing to do with the streets. Right. It's like, okay, why are you even calling it streetwear? I mean, it's like it. And then when they were trying to, I guess, categorize streetwear or make this kind of empire for these people want to make for themselves, and they kind of took graffiti and cut us out of that equation, and they're saying, oh no, you're kind of urban and you're graffiti, you know, so you're not streetwear. It's like, what the fuck, you know what I mean? Like, damn, we created this shit, you know, but whatever, I can't trip on it, you know? And that's the other thing that I get so dope having my own shop. Now it's like I don't have to worry about trying to satisfy a little buyer in the shop like, I don't know if that's going to sell or whatever. Like, I'll just make it and put it in my fucking shop, you know? And, you know, if people buy it, they buy it. If they don't, I'll print something else, you know? Like, it's all good. It's my own shop, you know? Yeah. So that's the beauty of it. And I feel like I've always done that through my whole life. Like, if avenues didn't open for me, I've made the avenues. You know, like if
give me an example.
Starting our brand or whatever, Third Rail or whatever, like there was nothing like it. So we had to kind of make it. You know what I mean? There was no path really for, like, there was no cut open path for us to go. Except, like, you know, we saw the bushes and we're like, dude, we need to cut through this to get here to do, you know what I mean? Like, we kind of just made our own
it's like
path.
we can only airbrush so many shirts.
Yeah.
So now we got a silk screen.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Nice.
So,
And then it was like, well, I can only tag on so many hoodies, so I need to embroider these hoodies with a tag on it. You know, and then it's like, well, these jeans don't have pockets big enough to hold my spray can, so I need to make some jeans with bigger pockets.
Right.
You know, it's kind of like I can't rack wearing 34s, so I need to go up to 40s.
Things coming out of necessity more so than, out of fashion. You know,
it's like now I look at these dudes, right? It's like, you know, we constantly talk about it. Like, you don't know if a dude's a gangbanger or a hipster, right? Because everybody wearing, he's gonna beat you up or give you a kiss, try to take you out on a date. But I do know one thing. I do know this. I know he's not strapped.
Right.
Because he can't fit a strap in them 32s. I can see the nigga's nuts. He damn sure ain't strapped.
Maybe a little 22, like pea shooter
okay,
in there.
380, whatever. I get you. You're right. But, I mean, back in the day.
Right.
And you know this as well as I do. All three of us do.
Yeah.
I mean, you had to act right, bro.
Yeah,
because everybody was baggy.
Yeah, you don't know what's happening.
That's right. Everybody was baggy. And then we be in a lot of places where 9 out of 10 dudes had a pistol you couldn't conceal in some tight jeans. Now I'm wondering where the street's at. You know, everybody's sipping on lean, slowed down, wearing tight jeans. Where's the street in all this? You know, it's just different. You know, like I watched the morning, wake up, the Breakfast Club.
Oh, right, yeah.
And dude came on, they're like, you got to rap.
Yeah.
It's a rapper. It's like, it was on Facebook. You got to rap. We're going to put these bars out. He goes, if you play some old shit, I'm not going to rap on that shit, man. I'm a rock star. I don't even know who it was.
Right.
And whoever you were, I don't give a fuck. So you got a problem, at Guerilla 1, holler at me. But they played the shit and he rapped and he didn't rap. He just said some shit.
Right.
And I'm like, really? Back in our day, put Exhibit or
you gotta
any
get on the
dude
wake-up
that
show.
was an MC and give them a minute. And like Slick said, every time you go, you got to go.
Right.
It's not just I'm a rock star. I don't know, man. That's how he ended. I don't know, man. I'm like, street? The street is gone.
Yeah.
You know, the street's gone. Street's a bad word, actually, I think now. It's like it's the anti-word.
Yeah.
If anybody holler at me about street,
it's
I'm
gone
like,
for sure.
Yeah.
At least.
Back in the day, I would not sell to a shop that called themselves underground or.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a few keywords, and I remember urban, the word underground, or so. And I remember this one shop had all three in them. It was like urban, underground, like
that's
flavor.
Urban Outfitters. That's
and,
what I'm saying.
And I was like, what the fuck? We got to sell to these guys because they just got the trifecta on this
all
much.
wrong.
But,
dude, I tell my
they're so wrong. They came back around.
Right,
I tell my daughters all the time, it's like Urban Outfitters, dude.
Yeah,
you can go there and be 3 different people when you come out.
Yeah.
And I swear to God, me and Danny Boy had to get on the bus and go get our belt buckle, and then we go get our Ben Davis, and then we go over here and get our shoes.
Yep.
You can go in one store and get laced up with everything. That's why I did Hotspot 23. I was like, I'm tired of getting on the bus and going to rack tips and going to do this. So I had tips, markers, baggy jeans, you know.
Was that why you had all those tips back then?
I try to do everything, you know, in one spot, at least whatever was possible.
Yeah.
You know, and now it's just a hodgepodge. It's like you can buy your ACD record and your, you know, newest hip hop record at Urban Outfitters and an outfit
You're
to
all
match.
Good. Yeah.
You know?
Convenient.
Yeah.
Really? Damn, I gotta go check it out.
Yeah, you should.
Have you had like mentors? Who's taught you the most important lessons?
Mentors.
Or has it just been like kind of happened?
Yeah, unfortunately, I wish I did have some kind of mentor, I guess, like more so, kind of guiding me through this. But no, I think I probably learned more from the fucked up people in my life. You know what I mean? Than the good people in my life.
Yeah, for sure.
And and as angry as I was at them at one point or whatever, it just makes me sad or whatever. Like that's how they are or whatever. But I've learned more. I would say I learned more from the fucked up situations or people in my life.
Yeah.
To help maybe shape me to be a better person.
Yeah, I get it. Okay, I have a little lightning round before we wrap up. I'm trying to. We're trying to ask everybody the same questions. We'll see. What do you know for sure?
Who you asking?
You.
I know for sure my meter's going to be up in like 13 minutes.
Okay.
No, it's not true. You got 4:15.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I was just guessing. Oh, okay. I'm good.
You got
I
an
don't
hour.
even know that.
Okay. Well, maybe you just answered this. But what's something you used to believe and then decided you'd been wrong? Eddie, I know you got one for that.
What I used to think was true and now I think is wrong.
Yeah.
That I'm the hardest motherfucker walking the planet.
It's a good lesson.
Let me change that. That I'm the hardest dude walking the planet because I was at a party full of 40 of my friends and somehow seemed to get stabbed 3 times and damn near die with all my friends standing around me drunk and completely disoriented.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of changed my whole perspective of how hard I really, really was. I don't mean to get deep, but
it's good. I'll take it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a tough one to follow.
It's like what talent? What talent?
I'm talking about my meter. Like, it's like
that's what I meant. Light we got to balance the light and the heavy. I like it. What talent have you always wished you had more of?
Talent? I don't know. I kind of pretty like I like my skill set. But,
nice. That's a happy place to be.
Yeah, I mean, maybe I don't know if it's a talent. Maybe be better at power moves, like at b-boying, like because I could never do the sick power moves like the boys
It's too
and
late
shit.
for that, man.
You know what I mean?
It's too late for that.
That's a tough one to pick up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like busting the flares to the 1990s and shit like that. That's why I pulled to the art side of it because I didn't, that it started to turn into some acrobatic shit, and I was like, damn, you gotta be like
You might want to get a little more realistic.
That shit was hard, man. Did you play?
So are we talking about something that we can still achieve?
Yeah,
or
no. It's just
I'm
random.
just saying.
Did you play sports?
Yeah, I played baseball.
sport? You played
Baseball.
baseball?
Yeah,
Right
a little
on.
bit of baseball. Racquetball.
Oh, nice.
I'm a big 80s racquetball.
I love racquetball.
I mean, I would love to
Nobody
see
wants
you
none
in
of this
some
at racquetball.
That was fun in the
shorts,
80s,
nigga.
man.
No,
With
but
the-
it's still
with
fun.
The Dolphins.
Some dolphin shorts and
Yeah.
some striped socks playing
No, but-
racquetball. That's a video.
that was
we
me,
need.
But if anyone out there wants to get some of this at racquetball, like
I'll play
I'm
racquetball
still.
with
You play?
No, I played in the 80s
Yeah.
with my grandfather.
Okay.
But,
It's like riding a bike. It'll
I'll
come
try
back.
it.
Is racquetball the thing with the little feathers and the ball?
No,
and
that's badminton.
Oh, okay.
No,
Okay, now
racquetball,
he's trying
you're
to
in
bag
the-
now. He
you're in
said
the
badminton.
closed-
Sorry, I just saw Slick with the little, the little.
said
the little
bat-
No,
Racquetball.
racquetball, you're in the closed room
Yeah,
with the
you're
blue
in the
ball.
little room.
Oh, yeah. That's that one. That
Fucking-
one. Yeah.
Okay, what's the last great book you read?
Last great book.
Or is there some book that's had the biggest impact on you?
And the porno stuff don't count, right?
Wow.
Hey, man, I'm not,
I mean,
I'm
do
not,
you read porno?
I'm not here to judge.
You know?
Well, yeah.
Right.
I mean, I like that. You know, actually, in Hustler, they had like the good little stories in between and shit. Like,
They did.
he said book, not
They
magazine.
did
I'm
have
a,
good stories. I don't know if that's a
funny.
book. That's hilarious.
Eddie?
Extreme Ownership.
Oh, I don't know it.
I don't know the author's name.
gonna
But
look
look
it
it
up.
It's really
That's
good.
good.
Danny Wimmer actually suggested I read it. I didn't read it. I listened to
Oh,
it.
yeah, that's what I do. That's
But
the
yeah,
look.
Extreme Ownership. It really
Yeah.
changes, gives you a different perspective on how to do business.
Okay.
And start looking at things more like you do than I do.
Yeah,
Josh.
I'm gonna jump
Yeah.
on that. I like it. What about do you collect? What do you collect?
lately, a lot of dust. At my warehouse, there's a lot of fucking dust, more than
Like, do you collect other people's art?
Not
really?
Not so much.
No.
Not so much.
Toys, vinyl toys.
I do have a collection of like vintage, like 70s. It's from like Japanese 70s television shows.
Oh, that's dope.
So like the Kikaidas and the Kamen Riders and Ultraman and
Okay.
they call it like kaiju and stuff like that. Like I got into that more so than the designer vinyl and that stuff. Although I do have a few designer vinyl
Yeah.
pieces, but not really. That's not my shit, you know? I like the vintage.
Nice.
Like, yeah.
Eddie, what do you collect? I know you got stacks.
Well, I mean, honestly, Josh, I don't collect much of anything anymore. I used to collect shoes. I used to
Yeah.
collect toys. I used to collect guns. I collect stickers. I mean, that's the one thing have not been. I mean, I have giant tubs full of stickers, like
Yeah.
old school Dub C, Blood Abraham. You know, that's the one thing I've not thrown away yet. But I got rid of my magazines. I gave away 60 pairs of Jordans or 100 pairs of Jordans. I have started to give away the toys. You know, I mean, as you start to get older, you start to, you know.
yeah. I know.
Yeah. So the only thing I'm trying to collect now is checks.
Nice.
Real shit. I mean, I'd
Nice.
like to have a very nice stack of cash checks, you know.
Well, I'm looking at a lot of my like toys and stuff, which is cool. Like, I don't know if there's any like real value to them because they're
Right.
more
Yeah.
my childhood and stuff that I couldn't get as a kid. And I think the neighbors' kids had them. And I feel like, you know, my family never got them for me. Not that they couldn't, they just spent their money at other places. And, you know, so I felt like I needed to get those. So,
Yeah.
a lot of my childhood, like, I'm reclaiming some of that shit, you know? But
know
now,
that feeling.
as I'm older,
Right.
I mean,
That wears off pretty quickly.
yeah, now I'm older. Like,
Yeah.
I'm kind of where Eddie's is a little bit. But, I mean, I'm really partial to the car thing now. I mean, I have a 59 Impala. And, you know, and I thought, like, okay, I'm cool with that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm not
Yeah.
like
You don't
Mr.
need
Cartoon
10
with,
cars.
like, you know, 30 cars or whatever.
Right.
But just being in it a little bit more, and then I'm like, well, that one's kind of dope, and then this is kind of dope, and this
Of
is so, I
course.
mean, who knows? You know what I mean? Like, I mean,
Yeah.
I have, you know, the space for it and stuff. Like,
You're going to buy
so,
one of Page's?
So, no, I'm looking into some, I got a few in mind right now that, you know, checking out, but
Nice.
got to check with my partner.
Exactly.
No doubt.
Make sure we don't get overextended here.
Well, you
but,
already know that
Exactly.
answer is no.
but yeah, like, so who knows? It might be like, you know, big boy toys and, you know,
Nice.
now, you know.
Okay, last two. What movie have you seen the most?
The most?
And no porno.
Okay. It's a toss-up between Clockwork Orange and maybe Santa Sangre. I don't know.
Those are good. That's good.
Those are my two kind
That's
of
good.
like.
I like that.
Hunger Games.
Really? No.
Yeah, I love Jennifer.
But that's not the movie you've seen the
I'm
most. It
telling
hasn't
you,
been out
I've-
long enough.
Man, I've watched that movie.
You just watch it. You'd
I
have to
got
watch
that
it.
shit. I come in the house and hit play.
Is that right?
Oh yeah, she's from
I
Kentucky.
don't believe that. Yeah, Slick, you have a favorite DJ?
Favorite DJ? No, there's a few. You know,
Yeah.
like there's a few. Like
Who's at the top of the list?
Well, I'm kind of partial to some of my boys and shit. Like, you know, Four Eyes.
Mm-hmm.
He done some really like sick ass mixtapes for us, and my boy
Nice.
Crook, who did another this is a mixtape for us. You know,
Cool.
and then Beat Junkies, of course. You know,
Yeah.
so you know. I'm a little partial, you know, because
Nothing wrong
these are the
with that,
homies
man.
too and shit,
Yeah,
you know,
for
and then
sure.
they're all like talented in their own field and shit.
Yeah.
So, you know,
That's big.
But I had like all kinds of music too, and there's so many genres now and stuff, and this new music, like I don't even know who's DJing or who even made the beats or whatever, but I got that shit like looping at my studio and shit. But it's just it's so, I feel like kind of disconnected to it, where I don't even know who it is now. Which if
that's
to save my life,
it's like it's good. It's good sounds, but it's just background noise. With like a lot of new music, like there's no emotional connection to it. I'm just hearing. You know, it's funny now. I make the guys in my shop listen to Lex Baxter radio. Okay. Because they try and put up like the I don't know Lex Baxter. So Lex Baxter, it's like old jazz and cool. Like elevator music and stuff like that, you know. So and these guys try and sneak in like hip hop or like electronic shit or whatever, but. When I'm there, I'm just like, nah, you got to have the Lex Baxter station on. And it's funny because you hear a lot of the samples. Right. Yeah, like in hip hop, you know, and I'm all day we're like, oh, damn, is that where that shit's from? And, you know, it's like, you know, so it's kind of cool. Like I hit it without really, you know.
Yeah. Put them on Stacks.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Stacks radio.
Right?
Yeah?
Probably hear a lot of samples too. Yeah.
Sure. Cool, man. Thanks, dude, for doing this. I appreciate you being here. It's good stuff.
Well, thanks for having me, you know. And
Eddie, thanks for making it happen.
Always a pleasure. Can't wait to see you again here in the studio.
Dope.
Can't wait to hear it. Use my good side, please.
That's right. No, it's going to be great. Because we got some great material.
Okay, that was Slick in our Artwork Rebels series in partnership with Guerilla One. I hope you enjoyed that. I had a good time. I'm sure you did too. Hit us on Twitter with any comments at Rebel Radio Net. Find us on Facebook or leave us a comment on iTunes. And most importantly, come back next week for more Rebel Radio.